Welcome to SkillCap's Beginner's Guide to Learning Mid Lane. Mid is, without a doubt, the most popular role in the entire game, and this is because it has the highest pool of champions to play, with a lot of them being mechanically demanding, which makes for really fun, skill-expressive gameplay. And that can scare a lot of newcomers away from trying to learn the role, but it really shouldn't. Mid can definitely be difficult to master, but becoming decent enough to perform consistently really isn't all that difficult. Learn just a few concepts, and you can start doing well almost immediately. And that's what we're going to be covering in this guide. We're going to go over some beginner-friendly champions, how they trade, a key skill known as breakpoints, some super simple warding tips to keep you safe, how to roam and win the map properly, and then how to win the game in the later stages. So, whether you're a completely new player or someone just looking to pick up a new role, this guide should really help get you started. At SkillCapped, we pride ourselves on giving players the best information from the top players in the game and simplifying it so the average everyday player can actually understand it and use it properly. Everything we're going to discuss in this video is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to improving at being a mid laner. So, if by the end of this video you found everything helpful and you want to learn even more, then you can find way more information on our site over at SkillCapped. There you're going to find our mid lane essentials courses that cover every single detail you could possibly need to become a great mid laner. And that's on top of everything else you can learn, ranging from mechanics, settings, farming guides, and so much more. So, if you're interested after this video, use the discount link below to sign up. Anyway, first things first, anyone either new to a specific role or league in general typically wants to know some beginner-friendly champions to get started and have some success. The best answer is to, of course, just play whatever you find fun or really interests you. Now, we're a firm believer that you're going to improve faster if you actually enjoy the learning process. Now, that being said, the most common recommendation for beginner mid laners always tends to be Annie. This is because of her extremely forgiving and really straightforward kit. You just build up some stacks to get your stun ready, and then you drop tibbers on someone for some easy kills. But if you want to get better faster, we'd actually advise you to stay away from Annie. This is because mid lane is a fairly skill-expressive role, centered around spacing and landing skill shots. Annie is so basic that she can teach you some really bad habits. You won't learn how to play around your abilities properly or space out opponents, which can really hurt your long-term growth in the game. So after a few games, we'd suggest getting off Annie and into something at least slightly more skill-expressive. One of our top recommendations here is really going to be Lux. Although her entire kit is based around skill shots, she's easy and she's straightforward. If you manage to land your Q, which is a root, it guarantees that the rest of your spells will land, letting you score kills pretty dang easily. So with Lux, you're going to learn good habits for landing skill shots, but also be able to have immediate success as well. Besides Lux, we'd recommend a couple more champions that are fairly straightforward. You could go for Vex, a burst mage with a simple play pattern. This bar near your health represents your passive. When it's full, this makes it so your next basic ability will fear any one hit. Your kill combo is really easy. You press your ultimate and hopefully land it on a squishy target. If you tag someone, you can press your R again to dash right on top of them. Then you immediately press W, dealing damage around you, and this is going to trigger your passive and fear. And that'll let you land your E and Q, which are skill shots, effectively guaranteed, since your opponent is feared. This is usually enough to burst squishy targets. If you're looking for an assassin option though, keep in mind that most melee champions in mid are very skill expressive and really hard to have success with as a beginner. The simplest one that we'd recommend you have would be Diana. Diana isn't really an assassin, but she can function as one if you build her that way. Her kit is pretty dang simple as well. If you land your Q, which is a pretty easy to hit skill shot, you're going to mark a target. Your E is a dash that deals damage, but the cooldown immediately resets if your target was marked by Q. So the way you kill other players is by pressing Q, Eing, and dashing on top of them, and then just auto-attacking them to death while also using your W's shield. And if they get away, you have your second E to chase them down. The best part is that Diana can easily duel a ton of champions, but she's also a very easy team-fighting champion as well. Her ultimate pulls everyone around her, dealing massive damage. This makes Diana a very versatile champion that can let you play in a variety of playstyles, where you either go the lone wolf route or you play more grouped up with your whole team. Alright, so let's move on and discuss trading. Of course, we can't cover every little detail in one single beginner video, but we're going to be focusing on the skills that are most relevant to mid lane. So for example, we'd probably discuss how to maximize your auto attacks in bot lane filled with marksman champions, but in mid, we're trying to get the most value out of our abilities, so let's focus on that. The number one trading concept that you should really practice is tracking your own minions' HP and getting ready for when your opponent is about to last hit one. This is because most mid laners are based around skill shots. You cannot pass this opportunity up. As your enemy is about to CS a minion, they have to stand still. So it's way more likely that you're going to be able to land your spell, making your harass extremely consistent. Now, we cannot overemphasize this part. As simple as that sounds, it's probably the single most important mid lane fundamental to really learn and master. It's just that valuable to do. And in the future, when you learn some more advanced concepts along the way, you're going to see that many of them are really based on improving this one simple trading tactic. A second thing you want to look out for is known as a double value spell. For every lane, including mid, one of the simplest trading tactics is having a minion advantage. If you've got more minions, you generally win almost any trade regardless of matchup. In mid lane, because most trades are based on abilities, you want to look for key moments where your opponent is standing next to their own minions. Using a spell to trade and push the wave at the same time is going to accomplish two goals. The enemy mid had no choice but to run away because her wave died during that trade. So you win the trade now, but also get lane control by having the minion advantage afterwards too. You may also want to consider avoiding this yourself. Standing outside of your own minions would force your opponent into choosing whether to use a spell on you or the wave. Of course, do be mindful of standing outside your minions if you're against a champion like Ahri, who can punish you with her charm. Obviously, there is some nuance based on what you're up against. Another key concept to consider is playing around your own rune cooldowns. Mages and assassins in mid have trading patterns that are generally based on the runes that they take. For example, Lux tends to run Arcane Comet because of her E slows. So in lane, her main trading pattern is just Eing to deal damage and also proc her Comet. Or LeBlanc's main trading pattern is going for a QW auto trade to proc her Electrocute and sudden impact from her runes. Basically, you usually want to track your own runes cooldowns in your bar and coordinate your trades based on when those runes are up. This is especially important because many champions have mana issues early on. Going for damage efficient trades is going to be really important if you want to win lane before going out of mana. Our final simple tip you want to look out for is the specific level ups where you become much stronger in mid. Even if you're completely new to the game, everyone already knows that level 6 is a big moment for your champion because you get access to your ultimate. But in mid lane, because almost every champion has an area of effect spell that they're maxing as their first ability, there's some specific level ups you really want to keep in mind that are going to help you trade and control the pace of the lane. And that brings us to our next concept, breakpoints. Now, this is going to sound really complicated at first, but soon we really hope you're going to be able to see that it really isn't. A breakpoint is simply a very specific way in which your champion can kill a minion from 100% HP. Let's use Lux for an example here. At level 6, Lux has one of the best breakpoints in the entire game. She can place her E as a wave is coming in and use her ultimate on it. Your E plus R's damage is enough to kill the melee minions and the casters behind it. It's a bit abnormal to use your ultimate that way, but Lux is unique since her ult's cooldown is so low. The reason this is so good on Lux is because she's clearing the wave so quickly and so early into the game that no other champion can match how fast she's pushing at this time. The faster you can push in a wave, the more time you're going to have to do whatever it is that you want to do in League. You can recall, roam around the map, ward, whatever you want. The key is clearing that wave faster, which brings us back to breakpoints. Every champion has very unique ways of clearing waves, but 90% of mid laners tend to follow a very specific pattern for killing specifically caster minions. For a beginner, focusing on the caster minions is really all you need to do. At level 5, casting the spell that you're maxing first will deal half of the caster's HP. So, casting that spell twice will kill all 3 casters easily. At level 7, your main ability will leave casters really low on health. You can typically finish them off with an auto attack or another AoE ability if your champion has one. Then at level 9, your main spell should be killing the casters in one single cast. Trust us, these 3 breakpoints is extremely useful for planning ahead. You can use this information in so many different ways. For example, at the most basic level, it can let you know whether you can push a wave or not. This Vex is running low on mana and only has enough left for 2 more Qs, which is the main spell she maxes. Because she's level 5 and knows her breakpoints, she decides to push. She casts 1 Q, putting the casters to half HP, and then another to finish off the wave. Simply knowing this information beforehand let her make a good decision at a critical moment where she was low on resources. Or at level 7, she knows that her Q plus 1 other spell will kill all the caster minions. This gives her the confidence to instantly push that wave and then go roam to somewhere else on the map. Again, a decision you can only make with knowledge of these basic breakpoints. So, keep these breakpoint timers in mind. Level 5, level 7, and level 9 are big moments for your wave clear on most champions. As a mid laner, roaming is a topic that we're going to cover soon. This is because mid is in the center of the map, so you have access to moving and making a play anywhere. This is a huge upside, but one that comes with a massive downside too. Being in the center of the map also means that everyone has access to you. Top and bot lane's only options are to roam towards you. Not only that, but almost every single jungle camp on the map is relatively close to mid. A jungler is never really that far away from your lane, so you're really going to get ganked a lot. To make sure you stay safe, we're going to teach you what we like to call the autopilot ward that can help you avoid almost any gank. Here's what you do. Pick a side of the map that you think is dangerous and move into the river. Then place a ward along the bottom of either of these ramps depending on what side you've chosen. The reason you ward this is because it covers ganks from this area of the jungle, but also the river. If you warded this brush, for example, you'd be susceptible to a gank from here. Problem is, you've only got 1 ward. You can't ward both sides of the river. So the next step is to play on the side of the map that you've warded during the lane. This makes it so there's only 2 outcomes that can happen. First, if an enemy ganks you from one side of the map that you've warded, for example, we see Vax has placed her autopilot ward down. Afterwards, you're going to notice how she's playing on the right side of the lane, close to the vision that she's put down. As she keeps pushing, she notices the 2 champions coming thanks to her ward, and can now simply walk to the other side. The second outcome is if someone comes from the side where you haven't warded. During this fight, Diana was on the side of the lane with her vision. As the fight continues, the enemy jungler comes in. But because the lane is so big and takes a while to cross, Diana can react to the enemy jungler and simply just walk away. Basically, you're going to be safe either way. This autopilot ward, it really isn't perfect, but it's pretty effective and one of the best strategies for avoiding most ganks, especially at a beginner level. Alright, so let's talk about roaming as a mid laner, because this is definitely one of your biggest strengths. But doing it right, oh man, is it important. The one thing you want to avoid when roaming is leaving your tower vulnerable to damage as you leave. Mid tier 1 is super valuable going into the mid game, but if you roam at a bad time, it allows your enemy laner to get chip damage on it as you leave lane. This can result in your mid tier 1 going down very easily later on, which is definitely not good. This is your number 1 priority. If you can roam without your tower taking damage, you're gonna be good. The way to do that is simple though. By clearing the wave in mid, you take away your opponent's ability to push your tower, so now you can roam freely. Well, kind of. There's an important detail to mid that a lot of players really don't think about. Waves always spawn at the same time in every lane. However, mid is unique where the lane is shorter, so the waves end up crashing in mid way faster than in other lanes. What this means is that you have less time than other roles to move from lane before another wave gets there to allow your opponent to push. This reduces the amount of time you have to roam. So what you'd want to avoid are situations like this. You walk up to a wave that's already crashed in mid. You slowly push it and crash it into the enemy tower and start to roam. But the next wave is already here, so this would be a horrible time to roam. You can see we haven't even reached bottom yet, and there's a wave your opponent could use to push into your tower. This is likely going to be a really bad roam, where your tower would take a ton of damage. Mid laners make up for this smaller roam window by having the best wave clear in the game. The best thing to look out for is when you can clear a wave as it's walking into the lane. If you clear a wave quickly as it's coming into your lane, you're going to have way more time to roam. You can see we reached bot lane this time before the next wave had even arrived in mid. This will give you way more time to get kills during your roam, but also make it back in time to defend your tower. This is exactly why we spent so much time discussing wave clear breakpoints. Levels 7 and 9 are really key moments in the game where your wave clear amps up significantly. Now you can clear waves really quickly and roam around the map to score kills. And because you killed the wave so dang fast, the next wave won't be arriving for a while, leaving your opponent with nothing to do but wait for the next wave. Those are the two key details to roaming. Think about how vulnerable your tower will be if you leave lane, and how you can avoid that by clearing a wave faster. So if you want to learn more about roaming properly, then you could check out our much more detailed course covering everything you need to know on our website, along with everything else you could ever need to master mid lane. You can access them right now with the special mid lane beginners discount link in the description below. Although we can't dive super deep into macro in a quick starter guide here, we can offer you some decent strategies based on the champion that you're playing that you may want to look out for. For starters, if you're playing a mage, then you need to understand a really simple concept that's going to make your life so much easier. Typically, in almost every single game, there is some sort of defender's advantage to holding an area first. So even if you're equal in power with your opponent, if you're the one defending, you're probably going to win the fight. In League, this happens in the form of skill shot advantage. When someone is walking towards you, and you fire a skill shot, it is very easy to hit them because their hitbox and your skill shot are moving towards each other. So they're going to collide very quickly. So anytime you play a mage, you're going to quickly notice that it's super easy to land spells and combo players when they're walking towards you. Now on the other hand, it'll often feel really difficult to try and land a combo if you're the one walking into your opponents. One of the best things you can do as a mage is track when objectives are spawning. If you think you and your team are going to fight over an objective, you want to be in control over that area first. Mages bring insanely strong zone control spells that make it really difficult for enemy players to walk into an area because of what we just discussed. Now, as a result, being at the objective first over your opponents will make their lives very miserable going into you, and you're going to be much more likely to succeed in fights like these. Now, of course, we're not saying to always go to every objective no matter what to achieve this, but just make sure you press tab and check when objectives are spawning. If you think your team's going to contest, then do try to follow this advice, but don't force it just because we told you in this one YouTube video. Next, let's talk about assassins or melee carries in mid. These types of champions tend to excel in 1v1 or 2v2 small type skirmishes. Basically, you're looking to assassinate players or go for smaller scale fights, rather than always going for that 5v5 team fight. This is because melee mid laners tend to have good mobility and dueling capabilities, so you're extremely self-sufficient and you're going to typically have a lot of ways to outplay a fight. In order to find these smaller scale fights more consistently, you want to use the fact that you're so self-sufficient to always try and push side lane waves aggressively. The reason why you need to do this is because if no one is pushing in waves in the side lanes, then all 10 players in the game are just going to naturally gravitate to the mid lane. With everyone so clumped up, your strength as an assassin or skirmisher is completely gone. By pushing in waves aggressively, you're forcing someone on the enemy team to split up and respond to the push. This naturally is going to give you opportunities throughout the game to pick off people as they split off from their team to catch waves or as they're trying to rejoin them. This is your main goal as a melee mid laner. Try to create chaos on the map by utilizing the fact that you're self-sufficient enough to be alone in the side lanes. And then you wait for opportunities that are going to naturally present themselves as enemy players split up to try and defend the waves you are pushing to their side of the map. Again, this isn't the only thing you can do in a game, but it is one of your main strengths, and you should be trying to do this as often as possible. Alright guys, so we really hope that gives you a much better understanding of how to begin your mid lane journey. Again, if you want to learn the role even more in depth, check out our courses over at SkillCap using the link below. Thanks for watching everyone, we'll catch you next time.